Welcome to Listen Here, the audiobook podcast where we bring you chapter listens of our much-loved audiobooks and sometimes special guest appearances, like today. First up, we have an exclusive sneak peek of Vanessa Miller's latest book, What We Found in Hallelujah, followed by our chat with the author, where we discuss her inspiration for her characters, why she loves writing strong female protagonists, and why readers relate to her characters and more. Let's dive straight into What We Found in Hallelujah. In the latest novel from prolific writer Vanessa Miller, three women must find the strength to endure the storm and the faith to believe in a miracle. Good things never happen in November, at least not for the Reynolds women. It was the month they lost their patriarch and the month when 14-year-old Trinity went missing during a tropical storm. The last place Hope and Faith Reynolds want to be is in Hallelujah, South Carolina, in November, during hurricane season. But after Hope's life is upturned, and she receives a panicked call from her mother about a mistake that could cost the family their treasured beach house, she heads home. Faith is facing her own struggles, financial, marital, and more. Going home will force them to confront the secrets that have torn their family apart. But if they can survive another storm, they'll have a chance to rebuild on a new foundation, the truth. This is an inspiring contemporary fiction standalone novel, and it is perfect for book clubs. So let's hear a sneak peek.
Prologue. Hope Reynolds was on her mark, feet on the blocks, knees on the ground with arms outstretched. Her long black hair was pulled back into a ponytail. She was running the 200-meter dash against 6 other girls. College scouts were in the bleachers, and her mother was filming this race because she was just a few seconds away from winning the state title. Hope had won the state title during her sophomore year in high school, but last year she went against a top-notch competitor and came in second. That same competitor was running this race with her again, but Hope wasn't taking another loss. Her track scholarship was riding on this. "Get ready!" Hope lifted her stance, hips in the air. "Set!" Head lifted. She prayed that she wouldn't let that curve slow her down today. God was with her. Pastor Odell had said so. The gun popped. "Focus! You got this!" Hope sprinted out of the block, took the curve, which slowed her down, but once the track straightened out, she was like smoke. Her knees lifted high on each stride, arms pumping back and forth. The finish line was mere steps away. Out of her peripheral vision, she could see her competition. They were neck and neck. She lost the race last year because she was too busy watching her competition ease up and then pass her. But her coach told her that she needed to stay focused and lean forward, allowing her torso to cross the finish line first. Hope passed the finish line and kept running a few extra steps as she tried to steady herself. The race clocked at 22:05, her fastest time yet. Yes! Hope bent over, hands on knees as she tried to steady her heart rate. She took a few deep breaths, then lifted up straight and pumped her fist in the air. "Oh my goodness, you did it! You won the race!" Her daddy, Henry Reynolds, ran over to her and swung her around. He kissed her on her sweaty forehead. He was such a proud papa, and she loved him for his support and encouragement through the years. People in the stands stood and cheered for her as an official handed Hope a dozen roses and congratulated her. "I did it, Daddy! You told me I could do it, and I did it!" "Of course you did. You were born for this, baby girl. The sky is the limit for you." Hope's eyes glistened from the high praise she received from her daddy. This was her day. She was the state champion, and her family was here to see it. Hope's mother, Ruby Reynolds, lowered the camera and walked over to them. "I got it all on film. Them college recruits are going to be knocking down the door to get you to their schools." Donna James walked over to Hope and said, "I'm so proud of you. Seems like you get faster and faster with each track meet." "Thank you, Mrs. James." Hope pointed to the track. CJ is up next. He's only in the 9th grade, but he's outrunning everybody. Donna smiled as she looked ahead. CJ was Donna's son, and he was about to get on his mark for the 100-meter dash. That may be, but I'm proud of you both. You and CJ are the two darkest kids in Hallelujah, but you're stirring up the most noise. Hope's eyes widened as a gasp made its way up her throat and escaped through tight lips. Ruby's hands went to her hips. What does her complexion have to do with anything? You people are something else. Her mother and her sisters were fair-skinned, while Hope was a few shades lighter than her daddy, who was dark as night. Ruby didn't like it when people referenced Hope's complexion. Hope didn't like it either. It tore at her heart, making her feel like she didn't belong, like she was the other. I didn't mean to offend you. Donna turned away from them with sorrowful eyes, like she wanted to take back her hurtful words. Hope walked with her father and mother to the sideline where her sisters, Faith and Trinity, waited to congratulate her. She tried to let Donna's words slide like peas off of a plate, but looking at the fair skin of her sisters caused her to wonder for the 100th time why she took her father's coloring rather than her mother's. My big sis is the state champ, Faith gloated. Trinity said, I knew you would win. The three of them hugged and jumped around. The joy of winning the state championship was filling Hope's heart and mind again and shoving all thoughts of her complexion from her mind. The 100-meter dash began, and Hope turned her focus back to the track. There were 6 guys on the track, but within 10.8 seconds, CJ had smoked them all. Their little town, Hallelujah, South Carolina, now had 2 state champions. Yay! Hope and her sisters cheered for CJ. But Ruby rolled her eyes. Let's get out of here, she said. Y'all standing there cheering for that boy when I told you that whole James family ain't worth a quarter put together. Hope just shook her head. Her mother was a handful, but she loved her dearly. She turned to her sisters. Let's go to the ice house. I feel like celebrating with a triple scoop of Cherry's Jubilee. After the meet, her parents drove them home. Then Hope, Faith, and Trinity walked a couple blocks down the road. Trinity said, I'll race you, then took off running. Hope screamed after her youngest sister, You little snake! But she took off after her, with Faith joining in for the race as well. This was Hope's happy place. She loved living on the beach with her family. After college, Hope planned to come back home and work on turning their beach house into the best bed and breakfast this town had ever seen. Her father had been searching for a new home for the family to live in so they could begin building their empire, one bed and breakfast at a time. Hope was excited about the future. Life was good in Hallelujah, and it was only going to get better for them. Chapter 1. 22 years later, Los Angeles, California. Expect something good. You got this. Hope Reynolds told herself as she stepped out of her office and headed down the long hallway toward the executive suites. It was her time, her turn. After the upcoming board meeting, Hope was sure the promotion would be hers, and she would have an office in the executive suites. She just needed to clear up a few things with Spencer Drake before she could finalize her annual report, because from what she was seeing, they had lost money on 2 events he brought in this year. But the spreadsheet he gave her didn't indicate the losses, even though she had asked him to correct this information last month. Hope was not about to turn in her report with incorrect numbers, not when her next promotion was riding on everything she did in the next few weeks, and not even Spencer, her BB, boyfriend and boss, was going to mess that up for her. Stopping in front of the full-length mirror that was next to the employee's bathroom, she checked her appearance. Her afro was lopsided. Hope patted her hair, trying to get it just right. She had left her hair pick in her office, and it wouldn't do to be walking around with a crazy-looking afro. Hope was serious about her hair game. She'd stopped relaxing it about 12 years ago. Cutting her long hair to go natural had been a struggle. Hope had cried many nights because she hadn't known what to do with her TWA, teeny-weeny afro. It had taken 5 years of braids and afro-puff ponytails until her hair was finally at the point where she could sport a big Angela Davis back in the 70s kind of afro. Hope even preferred the bell-bottom pants that were popular in the 70s. She had on a gray pair today. This was her style, and she didn't care who didn't like it. She had tried to conform to what others expected of her, but all of that changed after she graduated from Howard University. Hope had majored in business with a minor in hotel management because it had once been her dream to help her father turn their beach house into a money-making bed and breakfast. Then they would open another one and another one until the Reynolds name meant something in the hotel industry. But that was before Henry Reynolds unexpectedly died after a hurricane rolled through her hometown one chilly November day. Consequently, Hope no longer dreamed about a bed and breakfast empire. She was now a 39-year-old woman and about to be named general manager of Hillsborough Hotel in Los Angeles, California. Spencer Drake, her boyfriend, was the current general manager, but he was being promoted to senior vice president and general manager for all 10 of the Hillsborough hotels. Hope continued down the hall, thinking about how she and Spencer had gone from a professional relationship to a personal/professional one. Spencer was the owner's grandson and heir apparent to the Hillsborough hotel chain. Hope had already been promoted 3 times when Spencer had been assigned to her hotel. After working with Spencer a few years, Hope discovered that she not only liked him, she respected his work ethic. One night when they were working late, he told her, "I want to ask you out, but I don't want you to feel obligated just because my grandfather owns the company." Hope had bit down on her bottom lip. Spencer had that rugged kind of handsome face that got a woman's attention. That almond skin tone and his symmetrical mustache, which grew down his lower jawline and looked like an upside-down horseshoe, accentuated his square jaw. All the women on the job were after him, so Hope asked, "Why me?" Spencer leaned back in his seat, loosening his tie. "You really don't know how beautiful you are, do you?" She had a mirror. She knew she was pretty, but too many people had added the asterisk of pretty for a dark-skinned woman for her to even consider herself beautiful. But the fact that Spencer did gave her pause. "Yes, okay, I'll go out with you." They had been dating for a year now. Things were getting serious, and Hope didn't know how she felt about that. She had only been serious about one other man, and he still had a piece of her heart. Spencer was patient with her, and she adored him for that. Now, standing in front of Spencer's door, she knocked, then opened it. "Hey, do you have a minute?" Spencer was seated behind his desk, while Erica Kelly, the catering manager, was leaning in to kiss him. Shocked, Hope's breath caught in her throat. Spencer jumped out of his seat, straightening his shirt. "Hope, hey, I didn't know you were there." "Obviously." Hope's eyes darted from Spencer to Erica, then back to Spencer. She stepped into his office. "Is there something I need to know?" Hope should have known better than to date her boss, but Spencer kept coming at her, kept telling her how special she was. She'd been on a serious dating drought for the past 5 years. To be honest, She hadn't been booed up with anybody since Nick. But Nick had been all wrong for her, and apparently Spencer wasn't meant to be either. Spencer nudged his head toward Erica, then lifted the carrot cake from his desk. "Erica baked a cake. I was just getting ready to call to see if you'd like a slice." Erica didn't bake cakes. She bought them from the bakery 2 blocks down the street, took them out of the box, plastic wrapped them, then told everyone that she baked it herself. She'd been doing that for the 7 years Hope had known her. As their friendship had grown to more of a sisterhood, or so Hope had thought, Erica had let Hope in on a few of her tricks. Erica walked around the desk, stood next to Spencer's Businessman of the Year award that was hanging on the wall above his file cabinet. "I have a meeting scheduled with a client, so I probably should get back to my office." But Hope shook her head, eyes burning a hole through Erica. "I wouldn't have done this to you." Erica averted her light green contact lens eyes, then ran her hand through her 14-inch sew-in. Old Fake-N Bake with a creamy tan skin had just been pretending to be her friend. I'm sorry." Erica lowered her head and rushed past Hope. Hope turned back to Spencer, hand on hip. "Exactly how many women are you dating at this company?" He lifted an outspread hand. "Now hold on, Hope. I'm not chasing after women like that. There's just..." His hand dropped. "Something about Erica. I'm sorry." Hope knew exactly what that something was. Erica was the kind of beauty who didn't need an asterisk. Hope thought complexion didn't matter to Spencer, but now she knew better. Tears formed in her eyes. She turned away, not wanting Spencer to see that this was so completely destroying her. "Let me get back to my office." Spencer reached out and grabbed her arm. "You have to believe me, Hope. I didn't mean for this to happen." She recoiled as if she'd been bitten. "Don't touch me. Stay away from me." "It's going to be hard to do since we work together. We have to find a way to be civil, don't you think?" Civil? Did he really just say that to her? She rubbed her arms as she walked toward the door, suddenly feeling a chill in the air. For the first time in the 15 years she had been employed at Hillsborough Hotel, Hope wondered if it was time to dust off her resume and find a new job. The year had been going so well, but it was November, and bad things always seemed to happen to her in November. Hope rubbed her temple as she walked back to her office. It felt like an elephant was stomping on her brain. Sitting down at her desk was something she did every day, but it just didn't feel normal after what she'd just walked into. Hope opened the bottom drawer of her desk and took out one of the adult coloring books and colored pencils that she used as a stress reliever on her lunch break or when she had downtime at home. Decisions about whether she was going to stay at Hillsborough and watch Spencer carry on with Erica, or whether she would start shopping her resume, needed to be made. Right now, Hope didn't know how she felt about working with Spencer and Erica. She was more hurt than angry about the situation. Erica had pretended to be her friend, and Spencer had pretended that she was enough for him, when she obviously wasn't. Her cell phone rang. It was her mother. Hope contemplated not answering because she wasn't in the mood for whatever Ruby Reynolds had going on. Not today. But she knew her mother. Ruby would just keep calling until Hope answered. "Hey, Mom, I've got a lot going on. Can I call you back?" She rushed the words out, hoping that her mother would just say okay. But Ruby was hysterical. "You really need to call me back this time, because if you don't, I just might go buy a gun and end up with a cellmate that'll stab me to death or worse." What was worse than death? "Mama, What is going on down there? Who do you want to shoot? The good Lord knows that I'm a peaceful woman, but that Rick Thornton done got my back up. That man ain't right." She massaged her temples. "Mama, can you just please spell it out for me? What happened?" "He stole my money, and now I'm about to lose this house to the bank. That's what happened." Hope opened her purse and took out a bottle of Advil. She popped 2 in her mouth and downed a half bottle of water. "Mom, is this true? Or another one of your make-believe stories?" Hope had caught her mother telling a few whoppers, so she couldn't readily take anything Ruby said at face value. "Why do you always think the worst of me? If you aren't concerned for me, then what about the house? Do you want me to lose it?" How was the beach house where she grew up, the beach house that her father spent years building, about to be lost to the bank when there was no mortgage on it? She posed that question to her mother. "That's why I'm trying to tell you," Ruby said. "Slick Rick had me take out one of them, whatchamacallit?" Hope heard her mother snapping her fingers as she tried to come up with the word she was looking for. "Home equity loan?" "Yeah, that's what it was." Ruby took a breath, then continued. "The bank gave me $60,000 for the repairs I need to turn this house into a bed and breakfast. Slick Rick told me he needed $30,000 up front so he could order all the supplies and whatnot. And now he's in the wind. I haven't seen hide nor hair of that man in a month." "You just gave this man your money?" That didn't sound like the Ruby Reynolds she knew, but her mother was getting older. Was dementia setting in? "I messed up, I know that, but now I need you and your sister to get down here and help me turn this house into a bed and breakfast so I can start earning money to pay back that loan, or the new year will ring in with a new owner of our beach house. The bank will take the house if I don't start making payments within the next 45 days. Whoa. Hope hadn't been in Hallelujah in about 18 years. She was no longer that same small-town South Carolina girl. She was a grown woman who made her own decisions and lived by her own rules. And now her mother was asking her to come back in November. She couldn't do it. "You know I don't like being there, Mama. This is no time to be thinking about the past. I need you to come home," Ruby yelled into the phone. "What do you need me to do that I can't do from right here?" "I told you. I'm finally going to turn this house into a bed and breakfast so I can make back the money Slick Rick stole. And I need you to help me get this house in order so I can hang my shingle out front." Oh, Mama. She and her father had stayed up late many nights, talking about things they could do to the beach house in order to turn it into a bed and breakfast once she graduated college. But her father died during her first year of college, and everything changed after that. "Your daddy would turn over in his grave if I lost this house." And there it was. Hope could not, would not, let the house her daddy built with his calloused hands end up in the smooth, unblemished hands of a banker. This week was the worst time for vacation because they were preparing for the board meeting next week. But Hope didn't care anymore. She had over a month of vacation saved up, and she was headed back to Hallelujah. She was going back to the place where her heart had been snatched out of her chest, thrown into the ocean, then dragged out of the water as a stampede of thoughtlessness grounded into that sandy beach of a place she'd once called home.
That was an exclusive sneak peek of what we found in Hallelujah. Most of Vanessa's published novels depict characters that are lost and in need of redemption, and we had the pleasure of sitting down with Vanessa and talking about her 2 latest releases, Something Good and What We Found in Hallelujah, and learning more about where her inspiration for her characters comes from. Enjoy. So I'm going to dive straight in with our first question, which was, what was your inspiration for the dynamics of the female relationships in Something Good and What We Found in Hallelujah? And then how did you approach the trio of protagonists differently between the books?
Well, my inspiration for Something Good was I wanted to create people who were very different from each other and then show how they could become friends, but friends that you definitely wouldn't expect to for it to ever happen because of the tragedy that occurred. You would think all of these people would totally be against each other. So I wanted to show something like that with Something Good. Now, with What We Found in Hallelujah, it is a family drama. And so that's the difference in this one because the other one was about friends and this one is sister and mama drama. And so I wanted to show, what happens in a family when they've experienced a tragedy and now they have to keep on living through it, and how do they do that, and how do they respond to each other while trying to get through this thing that happened to them that shouldn't have happened.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you definitely do. You definitely put your characters through it. Like you're not easy on them.
No, I'm not.
And it's really amazing how you weave through, like, are they going to handle these situations with grace or with grief, or like really, and where do you end up at the end throughout all of it? It's really fascinating. So yeah, did you approach writing them differently? Like, did you pull different things from maybe like your family or your friends, or just things that you saw? Did you just pull inspiration differently between the two books?
I would say the inspiration for Something Good began with the car accident. So the car accident is the catalyst for everything that occurs in Something Good, and that actually happened to me. I I broke my ankle. It wasn't as bad as how John was, but someone hit me head on, and I couldn't get up from the car. They had to pull me out, take me to the ambulance in the ambulance because I could not walk, and and ended up my whole ankle was shattered, and so I had to relearn to walk and things like that. So I knew that story. And I said, well, and I also thought that distracted driving was an important issue because it happened to me.
Yeah.
Because when the person hit me, they had dropped their cell phone and bent down to pick it up. Why not bend down to pick your cell phone up while you're driving? And so that was the inspiration for Something Good, which started with distracted driving and the car accident, and then everything that follows with the three women and how they are able to really build a friendship on something that was really a tragedy. And so with What We Found in Hallelujah, I wanted to deal with what happens when a family member goes missing. And not only that, but there are so many secrets within this family that, the two other daughters have really checked out of this family because their mother Ruby lies about everything. And that was fun for me, even though it really shouldn't be fun to write about someone who lies about everything, but it was. I loved her character, and so now her daughters didn't love it so much because she lies so much. But I wanted to explore what makes a person lie just for for no reason, or just to any problem that comes up. Her answer is to lie about it instead of to go ahead and let's tell the truth. This is what's going on. Even her daughters tell her, you could have just told us the truth. We would have still come. But her mind doesn't think that way. And it's because of what happened to her when she was a child, and her mother told her to lie about who her father was. So now Ruby is 70 years old, and she still can't find the truth in nowhere she looks. So they were very different dynamics, from the two books. And I wanted to write. This is the reason why I went into women's fiction. I wanted to be able to write the story of the woman, and I wanted to be able to tell different stories. When I was writing inspirational romance, it's boy meets girl, boy loses girl, boy finds girl again. There's that formula, okay, but it was like I started to feel like I was writing the same story over and over again. And so I really got my inspiration back when I decided to go into women's fiction, because now I get to write different stories in each book. And I will tell you, each of the stories that I've written so far for Thomas Nelson, right now we're on the fourth one I just finished, and all four of them are different stories. And I love
Yeah.
that.
We'll have on to the next question, which is, what would you say are the benefits of having the protagonist of a story be three strong female character versus just focusing on one?
I'm not sure if there's any benefit necessarily in it. It's just the way I wanted to write them. It's just the way they came off to me. And so in each book, I had to write each woman's story. Since I decided I was going to do three women in these two stories, it, when I write about women, they're just going to be strong characters.
Good. We love that.
Right. And so, because I want to delve into each person's issues, their dynamics with how they deal with life in general, what's facing them. And so to me, they're just going to come off big on the page, because I want to explore all of them. And so that's just how it happened.
You want to know their why they do everything that they do. What's the reason behind it all? Okay, so why do you think so many readers and listeners are able to relate and connect to your characters?
I think it's because they're real. I write about flawed people, just trying to find their way back home, basically. And a lot of us, we see the beauty in our story, but we also see the flaws in our story. And so I think that's why they can relate to them, because they're not just these perfect people who've done no wrong. And we know in our life we've done wrong. That's just the nature of people. But we know that we keep trying to get it right. And so these are the characters I write about, people who keep trying to get it right, you know, even though, they stumble,
Yeah.
and you see their flaws. And so I think that's why people relate to them.
Yeah, they definitely have a lot to overcome. You're not, I know I said it earlier, but you're not easy on them.
No, I'm not. No.
But that's life.
Correct. Sometimes we could write about, the perfect, but then people are like, "Oh, that's such a great fairy tale." When they read one of my books, they say, "Now that's real."
Hmm.
That's why I do it. I want to bring people the realness of characters, and let them see who they are, and then be able to see how God is able to come in the midst of everything that these people are going through, and see them through, and bring them up higher.
So we just have one final question and then we'll let you rest your voice. So, any additional comments as to what people can expect when they listen to Something Good and what we found in Hallelujah?
I think they can expect stories of hope, of inspiration. It doesn't start off like that, because at the beginning you're going to get just their story and what they're going through. But I want my books to be uplifting. And as you begin to delve into the book and begin to delve into the character's story and what they're going through, and then wait a minute, they say, maybe there is a God who cares about me. and who can help me with what I'm going through. So that's what I hope that the listeners get from when they listen to something good or what we have in Hallelujah. They get the inspiration that I try to bring in all of my books.
I love that. I love that so much. It's amazing. Now, here's an exclusive snippet of something good. When three women find their lives inextricably linked after a terrible mistake, they must work together to make the most of their futures. Alexis Marshall never meant to cause the accident that left John Robinson paralyzed. But though guilt plagues her, her husband hopes to put the past behind them. After all, he's in the middle of selling a tech business, and if Alexis admits to texting while driving, the deal could collapse and cost them millions. As she becomes consumed with thoughts of the young man she hit, can she reconcile her mistake with her husband's expectations? Trish Robinson is just trying to hold it together after the accident that left John dependent and depressed. As the bills pile up, Trish and her husband, Dwayne, find themselves at odds. Trish wants to forgive and move on, but Dwayne is filled with rage toward the entitled woman who altered their lives forever. Then one afternoon, Marquita Lewis rings their doorbell with a baby in her arms and changes everything. Vanessa Miller reminds listeners that differences may separate us, but if we cling to each other, God can bring something good out of our very worst moments.
Prologue. 6 months ago. Glancing at the clock on her dashboard, Alexis Marshall bit down on the back of her lower lip. She had exactly 20 minutes to get across town to pick up the twins. Traffic was always terrible on Pineville Matthews Road. She would be cutting it close. When she was a kid, this road had nothing but trees as far as the eye could see. Now, shopping centers and one eatery after another lined the street, and cars, and more cars. A car cut in front of her. She almost didn't have enough time to put her foot on the brake. Pressing hard on the horn, she yelled, "What are you doing?" When she stopped at the red light, her phone beeped, indicating she had a text message. It read, "Your mother is missing. We can't keep doing this." No, 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 not again. She slammed her hand against the steering wheel. Her mother was always pulling stuff like this. This was the third in a year. Alexis picked up her phone and called her husband. He wouldn't like it, but he'd have to pick up the kids. She had to go find her mother. "Hey, hun, can you make it quick? I have a meeting to get to." Okay, she was going to make it really quick. "I need you to pick up the kids because my mother has left the nursing home and they don't know where she is." Again? She heard the contempt in his voice, but she didn't have time for it. "I've got to go. Don't forget about the kids." Hanging up, she texted her mother's nurse. "On my way." She put on her left signal, needing to move into the left lane to make a U-turn. A black Audi beeped at her as she merged into the lane. She waved at the driver as she pulled over one more time to get into the turning lane. Traffic was coming and going so fast that she had to wait for the light to turn yellow to make her turn. She made sure that there was a safe gap between the oncoming cars. After checking her blind spot, she turned the steering wheel all the way to the left, made the U-turn, and headed back to the nursing home she had left not more than 10 minutes ago. She was speeding, and her heart felt like it was trying to jump out of her chest. She needed to slow it down, but the last time her mother pulled her disappearing act, they didn't find her for 24 hours. It wasn't until the hospital called, letting them know she had been admitted, that they found out where she was. Her cell phone beeped again. Had they found her mother that fast? She picked up the phone, but it slipped out of her hand. Trying to catch the phone before it hit the floor, she bent over to grab it. Her car swerved. "Oh, no!" She straightened in her seat, but the steering wheel jerked. She tried to grab hold of it and right the car again, but as she tried to put her foot on the brake, she accidentally pressed down hard on the gas. The car jumped the median, and she went spinning and spinning into oncoming traffic. Her eyes darted back and forth in horror, watching as she spun past the Pineville shopping mall, Red Lobster, and Wells Fargo Bank. Her foot got entangled between the gas and the brake. Her twins flashed before her eyes. She still remembered the day she gave birth to them. They came out all wrinkly and red, but the biggest surprise of all was that she delivered not just a son, but a daughter. They were only 10 years old now, too young to live without their mother. The car in front of her tried to swerve. Cars were on every side. There was nothing she could do and no way to clear a path. She screamed, "Bang!" Her head jerked back and the airbag exploded as she felt the impact of the crash. Eyes fluttering, head hurting. Then, nothing. Chapter 1. These gluten-free, avocado toast-eating, green smoothie-drinking, bougie country folk got on Marquita Lewis's last nerve. Excuse me, but did you just roll your eyes? That Britney Spears song, "Oops, I Did It Again," popped into Marquita's head. She wasn't trying to get fired from another job. She just got this waitress gig 6 weeks ago and had already been late 5 times. The last thing she needed was some bougie customer complaining about her because of some dumb breakfast order. And it wasn't really her fault anyway. She didn't roll her eyes to be rude. It was an involuntary condition, brought on whenever she was in the vicinity of stupid. I mean, come on. How you gonna ask for all these extra accommodations, then get mad because it costs more? "I don't think I rolled my eyes," Marquita said back to the woman. "I'm not sure what you saw, but I'm just trying to get your order right." The woman's friend lifted a finger to get Marquita's attention. "Oh, and make sure there's no pesticides in my smoothie. I only eat organic greens." "You did it again. How dare you roll your eyes? Is my order too difficult for you?" Bougie jumped out of her seat, grabbing her purse. "Come on, Lisa. We are not eating here. I have never in my life dealt with such a rude waitress." "Wait, sit back down. I'll put your order in. I'll even throw in a gluten-free nut bar, and they are yummy." The last thing Marquita needed was to cause a scene. She had already been put on probation because of her tardiness. But now, all of a sudden, they didn't care about the gluten-free extras. The woman got up, and the two of them 3-inch-heeled it out of the restaurant. Marquita yelled, "It's like that, huh? Y'all probably weren't going to tip anyway. Go on to Burger King and get a sandwich you can afford." It wasn't until she heard the gasps at the surrounding tables that she thought, "I shouldn't have done that." Rent was due next week. She was already behind and expecting an eviction notice any day now. She just hoped her manager was outside on another one of his gazillion smoke breaks and didn't see what she'd done. "Can I speak with you in my office, Marquita?" the manager said as he came up behind her. Dog and double dog. Her nosy coworkers turned their heads, all up in her business. "Ain't none of y'all's name Marquita, so there's no need to look this way. Mind your business. Take orders." "Marquita," the manager snapped. "Now." I'm coming." She sullenly walked behind him, taking note of the shirt sloppily hanging from the back of his pants as he slew-footed his way to the office. Marquita wanted to kick herself. She had just messed things up again for her and her son Marcus. Since she was 14 years old, Marquita had been working and taking care of herself. She'd had Marcus 2 months ago, a week before her 19th birthday. They stepped into her manager's Cracker Jack box-size office. Marquita took some boxes off the chair in front of his desk and then sat down. She'd been through this drill a dozen times since she took on her first job 5 years ago because her mother was in rehab again, trying to kick a habit she never should have had in the first place. So it became Marquita's responsibility to make sure her younger sister and brother were able to eat. "I'm letting you go, Marquita." He said those words with such calm, as if no check for Marquita didn't mean eviction and that she and her son wouldn't be on the street with no place to go. "You can't. I need this job." She was close to tears as she stood. Why does this keep happening? He shook his head. "We can't afford to lose customers. I've had too many complaints about your behavior, and now you're causing customers to walk out the door. You've got to go." "Look, I'm sorry about those customers, but they were too bougie for me." She snapped her fingers. "I couldn't help how I responded to them, but I promise I'll do better. Just give me another chance." "I've given you too many chances. Most of you young girls weren't raised right." "I know y'all don't know how to act on a job, so I try to work with y'all." He stood, walked around his desk, and opened the door. Marquita's neck rolled as her hand went to her hip. "Who don't know how to act? You don't know nothing about how my mama raised me." But her mother, Gloria Lewis, hadn't trained Marquita for much of anything, unless teaching her children how to protest evictions and then how to quickly pick up all their clothes and pack them in their cars once the sheriff showed up to throw them out counted as some type of skill. The manager backed up a bit and conceded. "I don't know your mother, but I've witnessed how you act at work. It's obvious that you have a lot to learn." Marquita's eyes brightened with a thought. "What about a warning? You can't just fire me without a warning first, right?" She'd received warnings on all her other jobs before getting booted out the door. It wasn't fair not to get one here as well. "Girl, bye. What did you think you were getting all those times you showed up late and I told you that couldn't continue? But you never said you were going to fire me. How am I supposed to pay my rent? Me and my son don't have nowhere else to go." She was talking loud and knew that the customers and coworkers heard her begging for her job, but what else could she do? She just had to find a way to keep a job so she could pay her bills. Why did she have to roll her eyes at those customers? Didn't she know better than that? Or was it like her manager said? She wasn't raised right. If so, how could she possibly know how to act on a job? "Do I need to call the police and have them cart you off my property?" She scoffed at that. "It's not your property. You up in here collecting a check just like the rest of us." "Oh, okay. But I'm the only one of us," his finger wagged from her and then back to him, "who's still collecting a check because you fired, boo. And I will call the police if you don't take that apron off and get out of here." The last thing Marquita wanted was for the police to come in here and drag her out like they'd done to her mother on multiple occasions. Marquita still had nightmares about neighbors watching them being thrown out of one place after another. Those were scary times, but things got even scarier when Child Protective Services took them away from their mother when Marquita was 11. They spent an entire year in foster care, waiting for their mother to get out of yet another rehab and find a place they could move into. When Marquita had her son, she promised him that no one would ever take him away from her. No, you don't have to call the police." She snatched off the apron. "If you don't want me here, then I don't need to be here. It's not like I can't find another waitress job." As she walked through the eating area, making her way to the front door, she turned and shouted to the customers. "Don't order the chili. Bugs fall in it all the time, and my wonderful manager feeds it to unsuspecting customers anyway." He ran toward her, trying to chase her out of the restaurant, while simultaneously providing the customers a nervous smile. "We don't have bugs. Don't believe a word she says." Marquita opened the door and ran out. Her manager was a smoker. No way would he catch her. "Don't think you're going to get a reference from me. You can forget that." he yelled as she made her way to her 2003 Chevy Cavalier. Snapping her fingers and twisting her lip as she got in the car, she forgot about needing a reference. She'd been on this job for less than 60 days. Her last job had been almost 90 days because she'd worked up to 2 weeks before giving birth to Marcus. She'd experienced back pain on that job and had to take a few days off. She probably couldn't get a reference from them either because she'd showed out when they fired her too. Sighing deeply, Marquita pulled out of the parking lot and headed to her mother's apartment to pick up her son. He was the bright spot of her day. She hated having to leave him at her mom's place while she worked, but daycares were too expensive. Marquita didn't know how people could afford childcare and be able to eat too. It was all just too much. When she arrived at her mother's place and saw the eviction notice on the door, she was outdone. Marquita lived on her own, so her mother's constant evictions didn't affect her like they used to. But her brother Mark was 16 and her sister Kiki was 13. Where were they supposed to sleep once Gloria was kicked out of yet another place? Marquita already didn't like bringing Marcus over here because she never knew what kind of drama might be popping off. She didn't have the money for daycare, but if her mother went to another woman's shelter, she'd have to find it because she was not letting her son step foot into a place like that. Rolling her eyes, she snatched the notice off the door and entered the apartment. "Why aren't you in school?" she asked Kiki, who was sitting on the sofa, bouncing Marcus on her lap. "Mama wasn't feeling well, so I stayed home to take care of my little man." Kiki made cooing sounds. She kissed Marcus's cheeks. "Isn't that right, Moochie?" Moochie was the nickname Kiki had given Marcus. Marquita thought it was cute, but there was nothing cute about her sister skipping school. "You are too smart for this, Kiki. Out of the three of us, you have a real chance to get a scholarship, go to college, and get out of here. You are not going to mess that up just because I had a baby." "I'm just trying to help. I didn't want to leave Moochie with Mama today." Kiki nervously cut her eyes toward Gloria's bedroom. Then she plastered that same don't want no trouble smile on her face that appeared whenever Gloria got to acting like she needed Iyanla to fix her life. Marquita figured that her mother must have gone into a rage for God knows what and scared Kiki so bad that the girl feared for Moochie. Marquita didn't get why Kiki wasn't immune to Gloria's antics by now. The girl was just too soft, too good-hearted to be in this family. Marquita went into her mother's bedroom. Gloria was lying in bed with a heating pad on her head. The heating pad normally came out after Gloria ranted and raved through the house about some perceived injustice. The whole world always against her. "What happened now?" Marquita asked. Gloria lifted the heating pad from her head. "Why are you back so soon? Get fired again?" Marquita tossed her mom the eviction paper she'd taken off the front door. "Yeah, I got fired, and you got evicted again. Let me know when I'm saying something that sounds like a surprise." "You getting fired sure isn't a surprise. It happens all the time." Gloria sat up, legs dangling from the side of the bed as she turned off the heating pad. "And you getting evicted certainly isn't a surprise. It's been happening every 5 months like clockwork since I was a kid. When will you realize that you have to pay rent if you want to keep a roof over your head?" Marquita had no room to talk, since she was a month behind on her own rent and had just lost her job. But she was new to this. Her mother was true to the eviction game. "I told that landlord that he had to give me another month to come up with the money. He can't just evict me without getting a court order." Marquita pointed to the eviction notice. "Isn't that from the court?" "Don't get my blood boiling again, Marquita. They not just gon' throw me out on the street without a fight." Gloria's hands went to her head. Marquita didn't want to give her mother another headache, but she wasn't finished. "Don't let Kiki miss school to keep Marcus anymore, Mama. It's not fair to her." I wasn't feeling well after talking to the landlord. Kiki asked to help with Moochie, and she did her school assignments while the mooch slept. Kiki is smart, Mama. You can't be acting like a raving lunatic around her. That stuff makes her nervous. That's why she stayed out of school. She was afraid to leave you with Marcus. Gloria waved that comment off. She's heard me talk to these slumlords 1,000 times. She ain't never missed no school because of it before. She wasn't trying to disrespect her mother, but Marquita's eyes did that thing they do whenever she heard ignorance. Roll your eyes at me again, Marquita Ann Lewis, and I'll knock them in the back of your head. I'm going home. Marquita walked out of her mother's bedroom, packed up Marcus's diaper bag, and then took her baby out of Kiki's arm. Don't miss school to sit with my kid no more. You are better than that. Gloria came out of her room. If you don't like the way we keep Marcus, then why don't you go find his daddy and tell him to watch his own kid? But then again, you won't even tell us who the daddy is. I'll watch my baby myself so Kiki can go to school. I can't have her falling behind in school on my conscience. Marquita put the diaper bag on her shoulder and walked out of the apartment with her baby on her hip. Her mother followed her and started screaming, "Go find that baby's daddy!" for all the neighbors to hear as she made her way down the stairs. "Go back in the house!" Marquita shot back at her. "Why don't you want Moochie to know who his daddy is? Maybe he can take care of that baby, 'cause you sure can't. I take care of Marcus better than you ever took care of us, that's for sure." "We'll see about that." Gloria went back into her apartment and slammed the door. Marquita opened the back car door and strapped Marcus into his car seat. She got in the car and sat behind the steering wheel. Taking several deep breaths didn't help her calm down. She screamed. Marcus started crying. Then Marquita hit the steering wheel and screamed again, as if screams could change the world. The baby cried louder. "I'm sorry, Moochie. Stop crying." She turned and rubbed his belly to soothe him. "And I'm sorry about your daddy. I'd like to take you to meet him, but I just don't see what good it would do. Anyway, he's got his own problems. Don't see how telling him about you is going to change anything."
Thank you for spending time with us, and we hope you enjoyed this episode of Listen Here and our exclusive chat with Vanessa Miller. Visit VanessaMiller.com to learn more about her past and upcoming books, and even book club resources. Check back here next week for more audiobook samples and maybe a special guest or two. And follow us wherever you listen to podcasts, or find us on Instagram and TikTok at Listen Here Podcast. Visit our website, listenherepodcast.com, for more information or to find the books we've talked about.